He doesn't have time to shitpost because he's actually working to get things done for the Maine people. He will be the first actual bona fide working class United States senator that exists. There's 100 of them, right? There's not a single one of them with a background like Troy Jackson, and it's about damn time.
All right, welcome back, everybody. The Independent Voter Podcast. They came in, they stole a few cameras, they stole a few microphones, but they can't stop the Independent Voter Podcast.
So what happened, Chad?
They broke into our studio, stole a couple cameras.
Who's they?
Yeah. I don't know. If I knew, they would be apprehended. We got some video. Get some
I'm wondering,
serial
did you have
numbers.
some cameras and cameras on the cameras?
We did have cameras on the cameras, but they were wearing all black with black masks. I think it's their MO. They go around to studios. They take some stuff. They don't have a life. They should. I am not part of the defund the crowd police. When you guys go around, oh, look at this hypocrite, he got robbed. I was never a defund the policer, by the way. I'm not a defund the policer. I'm on the fund the police side.
Yeah. I don't think it would be smart to defund the police.
Yeah, well, that was a thing for quite a while, right?
It was. There was that. There was ACAB. There was an entire area of Seattle that was taken over by protesters.
Oh, yeah, I remember that. Yeah, it was like the autonomous zone.
Yep.
Like
yeah, then I think what happened, at least my recollection, is like someone like had a cardiac arrest and like they couldn't get any ambulances in there.
They're like,
because it was barricaded.
Maybe we do.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe
then
we
after
do.
that, they're like, okay. Yeah, this isn't gonna work.
Yeah. Anyway, well, we got a quick show today. We got a few things. Well, one, Cara is our prognosticator. Also, maybe our the psychic. That's the word I was working for, right? So
political psychic.
Yeah. Even before all the stuff blew up in Maine, Cara predicted what ultimately came about. How much money, I want to know, did you put on Troy Jackson on Prize Picks or Kalshi or something?
If I had, I would be able to definitely pay the rent this month. That's for sure. But I know him, right? So I felt it. I just knew that if Graham Platner actually was going to, drop out at the minute that he was credibly accused of rape, Graham Platner was by Jennifer Rasico. As soon as that happened, I just thought, Troy's going to be the next senator from Maine.
But you predicted not just him going the whole way that it was going to go down, right? They would wait until this moment to then do this, so that they did this, and then Troy Jackson would be the one well positioned. So my question, Cara, if you're so smart, you have inside information as well as inside intuition, and you failed to place a bet when people are betting on everything these days. What's your answer to that?
I just don't think that the prediction markets are, I don't know, there's something that feels unhealthy about it. Although, and I always tell my kids, like, make sure you don't do any sports gambling, don't bet on these teams that they're really into sports. I just think gambling is it's just not the way it's not the way I work. Like, I'll definitely gamble on an idea, but I just can't imagine saying like, but if I had put, I could have made a lot of money on Troy Jackson. That's just for damn
true.
sure. And so what? So he's just the greatest though, you guys. I just have to say, I'm so excited at the turn of events in Maine, because what the grassroots organizers of Maine proved over the last weekend is that there's just thousands of people who are really interested in politics, who have a personal stake, who are willing to organize one another in pursuit of a particular political goal. And when they really focus, they can do it. And it just makes me feel like, even though the whole story isn't like a great story, this is kind of a nice
I think this is
ending.
the stuff like the national, like voters and people who watch the news get totally like, it's not good because they don't get to understand like what's really if you look at the world that's red and blue, right? There's really not much has changed. Okay, they took out Platner, they put in Troy Jackson, right? Like, okay, this, they did a substitute like they did in the World Cup or something, right? But like, there's fundamental things going on. Like, Platner wasn't really political. He was writing like more the far left, that crowd, a very partisan kind of crowd. And while Troy Jackson shares some of the positions and stuff, like, he's much more independent than most Democrats, right? Like, this is a guy that appealed to a lot of Trump voters. He outperformed like other Democrats with Trump voters. He's one of the people that stepped out of the party line to support things like Cara's ranked choice voting, which is probably why you have an affinity for him, right? Like,
that's
when
why
it
I
wasn't,
love him so much. I
right.
saw him basically defy the Democratic Party leadership of, he was part of it, but like, there's not very many people who have power in a state capital. One of them's the governor, one of them's the Senate president, one of them is the Speaker of the House. Those three people, and sometimes the Attorney General, but those three main people are the ones who control what happens in a state for the most part, unless the citizens organize amongst themselves to bring something to bear, because they control all the committees. They control who the chairs of all the committees are. So a bill can just die in the graveyard of,
right. And what's interesting about this is based on your account of who Troy Jackson is. And, it might seem like, the establishment came in here and they took out this guy, Platner, who was threatening to undermine them. Really, Platner was kind of chosen as a vehicle for this one segment of the establishment, the DSA, to kind of move their agenda through. Meanwhile, like you just said, Jackson, he's actually done a lot of things against that kind of group of people that the majority
right. It's just an interesting circumstance.
Yeah.
And maybe that's what the party thought was the safe play, and he's just the right person at the right time, where he's anti-establishment enough, but he's more practical maybe than some of the other folks. So who knows? But
and he's also, you guys, he has experience. He has been in all the rooms. Like, he absolutely knows how the whole game is played. So he's not some young, naive guy. He's 58 years old. He's been fighting for Maine people for 2 decades.
And he doesn't have any Reddit accounts, right?
I don't know. I don't think so. He doesn't have time to have a Reddit account.
Yeah.
He doesn't have time to shitpost because he's actually working to get things done for the Maine people. He's not. And like we said last week, he will be the first actual bona fide working class United States senator that exists. There's 100 of them, right? There's not a single one of them with a background like Troy Jackson, and it's about damn time.
Yeah, it's pretty insane when you think about it.
in the spirit of moving forward after our totally unbiased coverage of Troy Jackson,
sorry everybody.
we're gonna
I'm
go,
like, don't.
We always say no. We're allowed to be biased. Like, that's the point of independence. Like, I hate it when people go, "Oh, I have this unbiased show." Then what are you? Are you a empty
robot
book? Like,
yeah.
what?
A bot.
Yeah, we've been
like,
talking like
everybody has,
ChatGPT.
like, everybody has a bias. Like, the independence isn't the lack of having a bias. It's the point that, like, I'm not going to let my bias get in the way of talking to somebody else that's full of a bunch of different biases. By definition, we wake up with biases. Right.
Well, that's what I want to talk about next, you guys, is I really want to talk about what we talked about yesterday, Chad, on our staff call, about how I was like, oh my God, Trump, he's gone crazy. He gives this nationally televised 22-minute speech. He claimed once again that the 2020 election was stolen or rigged. He didn't provide any specific evidence that the election outcome or that any votes were altered in the 2020 election. But he did say that the Department of Homeland Security had this list, right, of 278,000 non-citizens registered to vote in federal elections. And so I said to you, Chad, the news is reporting that a fair amount of those 278,000 non-citizens on the rolls were dead, right? And what did you say back? So I was like making this case about how Trump
I was just
had
saying,
basically lost his mind.
if we stop and say, are there any, like, we have to say unequivocally everything that Trump says is wrong or everything's right, or maybe he's biased by his own perspective and he honestly believes that there's this coordinated effort, right, and to rig the system and stuff. Maybe that, forget about whether he believes it or not, is that we allow these decisions to say, oh, Trump says this, therefore I don't like him. Nothing he says has any merit. And then we go to the other side that says, oh, there's absolutely no problem. So we just saw the Democratic New Jersey governor just admitted that they had problems with their voter rolls.
No sooner were we having this back and forth with each other where you were telling me to, like, don't you think there's anything true to what he says? And right across the transom comes a press release from the governor, the new
Democratic governor,
the new Democratic governor. Her name's Mikey Sherrill.
Trump.
She's pretty awesome, and she's pretty awesome for basically saying that New Jersey's motor vehicle system, where they have motor voter, where you go get a driver's license and then you can check a box and say, yes, I also like to register to vote, that basically resulted in the registration of 6,000 people who said that they weren't U.S. citizens.
Right. And that's the problem. You don't have to be an election denier to recognize that we have things we need to fix, right? California,
Correct.
It takes 38, we're a first world country with literally the home of technology, and it takes 38 days to certify an election. I mean, they certified elections faster in the 1800s. Like, what is going on here? And you can't question that. You just have to say, well, no, that's
Or not only that,
takes.
You say to yourself, like, the narrative is that the president is completely unhinged.
Correct.
Right?
Which may have grains of truth in it, right? It may, like, both can be true. You can say he takes a fact and he extrapolates it into something bigger than it is. Maybe it's just incompetence. Maybe it's people that have taken these political positions that are so hard-lined, they won't recognize and fix the relatively minor flaws. Not that they're not big, but maybe they're relatively minor compared.
I can't wait till, like, your son comes home and, like, 10th grade or something. And it's like, what were you doing last night? And he tells you something, and then he's like, Dad, I was just extrapolating the facts a little bit, okay, man? Like, look, you can't say I was lying. Like, I just extrapolated.
My son is...
I said I came home at 10.
You're bringing in family here. I'll let you know my son's 4 years old, and he already does that. Okay.
So you're saying it's human nature to extrapolate.
It is human nature.
Okay,
well, it is, and we all extrapolate, we embellish, we try to make our points, and that's the thing. Like, if you put up, like, all these issues, you have, like, if you went up and you're in a classroom, you put up, here's what the pros are, here's what the cons are. And it's like, we've gotten to a political space where it's like, cons don't exist, there's only pros. And the other side says, nope, only pros exist and there's no cons. And we've, like, accepted that as a political discussion.
No, which is why we have a system where the best idea doesn't win, right?
Correct.
We have a system where it's not about the best idea winning. We have a country where we're allowed to have the best idea win, right? That's what we're all about.
Right.
That's what we're supposed to be all about. But
we have a system run by political consultants that go out and poll test and say, what is the very worst way to frame this? Mm-hmm. What is the very best way to frame this, depending on what side you are? So look at California, right?
Okay.
We've done a lot of coverage of how the SAVE Act and stuff is fundamentally different than what they're doing in California. Forget whether you support it or not, but California is a much less barrier. Okay, you can't argue against that. What they just did,
I registered to vote here, on the day of the election, and I didn't have to show anybody anything.
That's under the existing stuff. But okay, so we have this new ballot initiative in California, much lower barriers. It's not like the SAVE Act. You don't have to pull out your birth certificate and all this stuff. Even
your
if you don't agree,
your marriage certificate.
Right. But
it's
even
bad.
If you don't agree with this, okay, the attorney general just comes out at the 11th hour and decides they're going to reissue a ballot title and summary.
Wait, when did that happen?
That happened literally yesterday.
What happened?
Okay, so here's the original ballot title. It said, establishes additional voter identification and citizenship verification requirements. That was the original.
Pretty strong.
They just changed it out of the blue to prohibits citizens from voting unless they present government-issued identification. Right?
That's a pretty wild.
Wow.
That's a big change.
Both can be. That's my point.
Yeah.
Both can be true.
But the job of the Attorney General, and well as the Secretary of State, is to provide a neutral ballot title and summary. Can anybody honestly say that that was written as a neutral arbitrator on the issue?
No, I mean that's
totally
like
partisan.
that's like
It's
requiring a driver's license just to drive and be like prohibits anyone from driving unless they have
But you
it.
can't put prohibit in a ballot title.
Yeah.
You can't put the word prohibit.
They know that because
and they
the ballot
know it,
title
and so
wasn't.
they did it because the word itself repels people from the government trying to do anything to prohibit anything.
Correct.
Right?
Because why did they change it
thing.
now? Well, they got all their polling back. The point is the AG didn't write that. The AG didn't change it. Some political consultant did. Right? That's the problem with our system. What are political consultants running polls doing, having influence over the change of a ballot title? And until voters get upset about those types of issues, all we're going to do is have back and forth pro-con arguments, ignoring the other, because we're not talking about merits. We're talking about which side gets a political advantage.
We went through this. I feel like we talked about this ballot title thing once before because I remember, well, I mean, I have a lot of experience with politicians writing ballot titles, but most recently, Shakeup Ballots in Maine, remember you guys, we had to petition for the Super PAC initiative because she put in the ballot title something about this prohibits groups from participating in politics.
Yeah.
And it's like, it doesn't prohibit groups. It prohibits political action committees, PACs. It stops PACs, not groups, not like the Boy Scouts.
Yeah, it's all related to the same thing I was talking about, the Trump speech and all this stuff. We take grains of truth and then the partisans go and make a statement that could technically be accurate if you were looking through this very narrow lens, right? And then say that's the truth, right? And we've lost all perspective of saying, well, let voters come to their own conclusions about this. The reality is the Democratic Party knows that 30% of its base don't want voter ID at all. Right? Similar to the open borders crowd.
Like they want it to be like what it is in California now.
There's no ID, there's no borders, there's no that.
I am a person. I swore that I was a citizen. Like I signed it and said that I was a United States citizen. I think I did that under penalty of perjury, but I didn't have to show a photo, anything with my address on it. I brought everything with me, like, my phone bill.
Add on top of that, California not only has ballot harvesting, which is one of 17 states. So there are other states that have it, but it's the only one that has a ballot harvester can count an unlimited number of ballots. And a ballot harvester can pick up an unlimited number of ballots, and they don't have to have any relationship with that person.
And you're telling me that's in 17 states that they have this ballot harvesting?
But only California allows an unlimited amount of ballots to be picked up. Only California has no standard about, I have to have I got to at least know Ethan or have a familial relationship with him.
Well, I think they would come to college campuses and I remember they had the tents.
That's what I mean.
Oh, right, because you went to school in California.
Right? Yeah. And then add on top of that, I'm not done. He's not done. And wait, there's
Ranty
more.
rant.
Okay. Right? California says, you got to turn it in within 3 days from the time you pick it up. That sounds reasonable. But guess what? There's no enforcement mechanism. The very same law says, but the registrar has to accept it even if it's delivered late. Right? So then you go back to the stuff we were talking about.
There's no chain of custody for that ballot.
There's no chain of custody, either, right? There's no timing. There's no, and then we have we're allowed to receive ballots 7 days after the election. So all this stuff added together doesn't mean that there's a bunch of people sitting at the table conspiring. It just means you just open the door to a massive amount of fraud that you can or cannot prove. So even if you trust the election results or you distrust them, all you do is end up in an argument about whether we should or shouldn't because nobody can prove anything, right?
Well, so let me ask you this. How could you change this? Through this voter ID law that's on the ballot in California. They have their signatures. It's going to be on the ballot in November.
I'm not arguing for or against it. And that's
I know.
This doesn't.
I'm just wondering, will that help with the ballot harvesting or is that just about making sure that everybody on the rolls?
It would, because once you disaggregate the ballot from like the envelopes in like mail-in voting, or if you hand it over a ballot harvester, there's no chain of custody there. There's nothing to prove. There's nothing that shows like who did this envelope belong to, who, right? So, that's the issue. If you like this spirited discussion, or you think maybe we're such idiots that you just have to listen to us, like the Dumb and Dumber show.
Maybe
not
it's entertaining.
Beavis and Butthead, I mean. Right? So make sure you subscribe if you're on YouTube or something like that.
Next week, more importantly, it's going to be just me and Sean. So that'll be an exclusive
You guys,
episode.
subscribe. You can skip the notification on the next show, and then make sure you come back after that. No, but Cara and I will be out at a conference. But there's a lot going on. Ethan's still working a lot of stuff. We'll see some new website changes here soon. We got a lot of other things in the saddle. I appreciate all you listeners, and we appreciate the emails, the comments that we get after the show. I love it when people say that what we say is like, oh, that's bullshit, or you get those email responses that are just like so livid about like something. So anyway, this is the Independent Voter Podcast. Join us, IVN.us, Independent Voter on your social media outlets, and thanks everybody for joining in again. This is the Independent Voter Podcast, sponsored by the Independent Voter Project and produced by OLAS Media. Remember, you can always find the Independent Voter Podcast or the How It Really Works series at IVN.us. Follow and subscribe at olasmedia.com.
OLAS Media.